Welcome back to The Person Everyone Needs. I'm your host, Webb Hoggard, and I want to go back to a topic I've talked about on a few occasions, but recently I've been doing a lot of soul searching on the topic of parenting. And so today, if you're a parent out there, or maybe you're not a parent, maybe this is something that's far off into your future, I'm hoping that, first of all, if you are a parent today, I hope I can encourage you in some of these directions. I recently preached a message on the idea of parenting well, and I had to kind of run through these thoughts very quickly because, you want to pack them all in a sermon. So I want to take a few weeks and kind of slow down my tone a little bit and see, just for us to kind of think through these. Now, if you're saying to yourself, I don't have any kids, please don't tune out. The truth is, hopefully one day you will, or even different, maybe something I say today will help you think through some of the things you've dealt with in your past and maybe even bring you some healing. So I would love for that to be the case. What I know about parenting, I guess one of the things that I'm always concerned, I like to start off with any thought, is I'm still at the time of my life where I have plenty of time to eat all of my words. And so I'm not telling you as someone who can state these things as perfection. I'm stating these things as I'm learning them the best I can, as I'm doing all that I can with the three boys that I have. As I was studying for this, I had a few quotes that came up that have really interested me. One was from the Duke of Windsor. He once visited us in America, and when he returned, he said, "Everything in America is controlled by switches except the children," which reminded me of another quote I heard one time of a guy from Asia once attended America. When he returned, he said, "I was amazed to see how well American parents obey their children." We are taught in Ephesians chapter 6 that children ought to obey their parents. But we live in a society now where not only does it not seem to usually be the case, parents don't discipline, parents very rarely even give direction, but I have the opinion that parents largely, they idolize their children. They're so afraid that their children may dislike them that they are held captive to the idea of discipline. And so they don't direct their children. They don't give their children understanding of how to come to understandings. They don't give them ability to dialogue with others. They don't even really engage them on critically thinking because they're so afraid that they will bother them. The issue is that often they will indulge their child so much that, and the child has no idea that they're being indulged. They just think that this is how it goes until that indulgence leads into some level of fatigue, and a parent usually will lash out at their child, and then the child is kind of confused. And so they end up being governed not by laws, not by well thought out explanation and direction, not by even emotionally mature adults. They get governed instead by the strong hand of whatever mood their parent is in. And by learning that the justice system of their house is based on the emotional mood, they know to A, manipulate that mood, but B, also to never really trust that what is being said is there because parents have become so inconsistent. Maybe this is the system you grew up in, and maybe these are areas that you can begin to ask the Lord to help you. But I will say, no matter where you're standing, children obey your parents is the line. That's the beginning. That's the understanding of where we should start. Children are required by God to obey their parents. Children have been entrusted to the parents that they have. The word obey just means do as you're told. Now, later on, we'll see in the same scripture that we're to honor our parents. Honor your father and mother. It's a commandment from the Lord. Honor means to give weight to. So it doesn't mean that they rule your life for all of your days. That obedience thing falls off when you become an adult and move into your own life. But there should always be some level of honor, of trying to pay homage to your parents and making them feel honored by the way you live. Now, there's 4 reasons that Paul says this. I'm going to share this, and then I'm going to get into my first one that I really want you to know today. But children, obey your parents. First of all, do it in the Lord. This is what Christians do. We were called to submit to one another, none more than children to their parents. The first thing is obey in the Lord. Do it because that's what Christians do. Secondly, children obey because it's right. It's the right thing to do. Not because you won't get punished, not because your parents are going to hurt your feelings or something like that, but children obey because it's the right thing to do. Righteousness is the greatest thing you can achieve in your life. The third reason is obedience is commanded. God tells that we ought to absolutely obey our parents. And so children, obey your parents because it's been a command from the Lord. Number 4, children, obey your parents because it brings blessing in your life. It says it will go well with you and you'll live long in the earth. Now, these aren't hard and fast rules. It doesn't mean that if somebody dies early that they didn't honor their mother and father. It just means that in living this life, there are blessings that come along with obeying your parents. And one of them is that you have favor in this world and even in the next, by the way, but also that you'll live long here. So I'm called to honor my family for all of my days, but the days that I was in their house, I should have done all that I could to be obedient in those days because later on in life it goes well with us. The family remains God's basic structure for shaping, directing, and instructing the character of a child. So the first thing I want to mention that families ought to do, that parents ought to be doing for their kids, is that they should be dealers of hope. Napoleon Bonaparte once spoke of leaders, that leaders are dealers in hope. That's what they do. They spend their time doing all that they can to help instruct and construct a vision of greater things happening in the future. Well, right now, the young people of this age are, and they have been informed that they are the most anxious generation to ever live. I don't know how this helps them to know, but anxiety only gets compounded when you're trying to not be anxious. The anxiety rises as you try to not be anxious. And so what are the ways that we can help give and the best remedy, by the way, of anxiety is hope. So how can we be people who help invest and internalize for our young people hope? We have to be able to find the things that are going to be in that future that are going to still be available, and we must remind them again and again that if they have the things that are going to work in the future, then they've got what they need. Well, we don't know what's going to be in the future. We don't know what technology is going to work. We don't know what governments are going to be there. We don't know what tyrants are going to be in charge of it. We don't know what the job market might look at, or if anybody will ever be able to afford a house again. Oh my goodness, the future is so full of question marks. But what I do know is there, and this is why it's so important for me to teach my boys about Jesus. Jesus is already there. Jesus is in their future. Jesus will be there when they get there. I will tell you the second thing is that no matter what it is that is going to happen in that future, having a decent character, being a person full of loyalty and honesty and caring for others, putting others first, the character traits that would remind us of who Jesus is, all of those things are going to work in the future. All of those things are going to work. So the best thing I can do is to inform and enforce that the young people in my life and those around me, I remind them again, Jesus is in their future. They can have hope. By the way, even psychologists say that hope is the best medicine for anxiety. Okay, so they can have hope because the God that will speak to them, guide them, live with them, love them, that God is going to meet them in their future because he's already there. Character matters because character is going to work in every generation, no matter what. The only good life is the God life. We have to be the people who are regularly massaging hope into those that are living in a day that is very easy for them to constantly forget. Not only hope, that's hope in Jesus, but secondarily, we need to be people who are constantly encouraging them to talk, dialogue, find ways to communicate Express your opinion. Receive others that are in disagreement with who you are, and then begin to work toward how do we get to a better solution after we've listened to those things that are different than what we believe. I believe that, number one, the most important thing a parent can do in their family right now is to be a dealer in hope. And part of that hope is that if you continue to have conversation with people, no matter how much we disagree, a better future is coming because we learn how to work together, compromise perhaps, but we always move forward in community. And it makes us less vicious. It makes us more rational to help us understand people who disagree with us. And it makes us somebody that other people can trust. And that's a better life, a better worldview for our young people coming in the future. So the first thing we can do is that we're dealers with hope. Don't paint a picture of despair for their future. Remind them that there are some things that are going to absolutely still be right when they get there. Parents are dealers of hope. If you're dealing with some lack of hope today, if you're hopeless and you feel like, no one's ever really taken the time to express to you things are going to be okay, I want to tell you, first of all, they will be. Give your life to Jesus. Let Jesus iron some of that stuff out. Maybe you're still carrying a lot of pain, though, from the past. It may be an opportunity for you to give forgiveness. Repent of what you have done and forgive those who have harmed you in your past. This is a pretty powerful path toward becoming the person everyone needs.